Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. And of course, I'm guest hosting for the great Kevin Jackson while he is away triggering lefties all around the country. This time, he'll be triggering lefties in New York. He's going to be on some morning shows. He's going to be on some radio shows. And I am holding down the fort in his stead. We are now talking with my great friend and good buddy, very, very talented photographer who lives in Charleston, where basically the Charlottesville Light protests are happening. I mean, these Confederate monuments are littered all around the South. And of course, you know, I mean, funny thing that the left is deciding to do this now. Why now? I mean, doesn't it seem so stupid? Doesn't it seem like they're wasting all of their political capital on something that's just kind of basic? It's a little bit boring if you ask. You know, I mean, why now? Why not when Obama was president? Why not when Bill Clinton was president? Why not when Jimmy Carter was president? I don't get it. But anyway, we're here with Mike Campina. He's a photographer. He's going to tell us what it was like on the ground zero of the Charleston protest and rally to basically preserve and to destroy and move the Confederate monuments. Mike, tell us a little bit about what it was like on the ground.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what to expect. You don't really know what to expect a lot of times when these things happen so quickly and you're rushing onto a scene. It was a modest group. There wasn't a whole lot of people, I got to be honest. They were gathering together. They were rallying around the idea of removing the statue, the monument to John C. Calhoun, who is known for being a proponent of slavery and his theories on politics heavily influenced the secession from the Union. And so what I saw would look like more like a few dozen local students, known activists in the city, coming together and kind of rallying around the statue, calling for the removal of the Heritage Act, which, if I'm not mistaken, they have to repeal that to get an open discourse on actually taking the statues down. So there are some legals that they have to go through before they can take these statues down, not like the way some of them have been ripped to the ground. Right. And so that's one thing about Charleston that's very commendable, is that, you know, I do find that it's a city that respects itself and wants to do things the right way as much as it can. The opposition to this, I guess what some would call the left, was a much smaller group, actually. There were about two guys. Two guys.
Before you go on, how many people were on the white nationalist side, the Nazis in the party?
I would say there was 50 plus.
50 plus Nazis. 50 plus. Wow. This is an amazing, catastrophic, amazing, incredible number. I mean.
Oh, wait. Hold on. No.
I mean,
are you talking about the
people who were defending the monuments?
Oh yeah, no. There was only like 2 or 3 guys in the crowd, and then there was probably like maybe 5 or 6 off in the distance, kind of dressed in some military fatigue, you know, looking a little intimidating, or maybe that's just how they dress every day.
But all right, yeah, that's good. But the way the left makes it seem is that like the South is swarming with these rabid racists that just want to string up. They want to bring back lynching. They want to bring back, you know, segregation. They want to bring back Jim Crow. And, oh, my God, some of them even want to bring back slavery. And that not just that there are these radical people there, but that the South is swarming with them. And then they're so rabid that they're all going to show up to these rallies to, you know, like, was that really the case? Is it really the case that Charleston is this awful, terrible, racist place? Or, I mean, did it seem like there were other motives other than racism, I guess is what I'm getting at?
No, I mean, I don't see a lot of it. I mean, I know that if you ask a Black American who's been living here their whole life, they probably have plenty to tell. Probably plenty of stories to tell from their grandparents too. But as an outsider looking in, and as a journalist who meets all walks of life every week, there is a kind of like a a sour note in the air, between the races, but nothing any different than I experienced growing up in Miami. I mean, it's a national shame.
Right.
That we have.
So essentially, breaking it down, what you're saying is that growing up in multicultural sanctuary city Miami, you didn't really experience more or less racism than in the deep South, Charleston, South Carolina, the home of slavery, Jim Crow, and all the stuff that we hate.
Not necessarily, and I think it's an interesting point to make. Not defending anybody or any side, but. This rally took place a block away from where the Emmanuel 9 shooting took place a couple years ago. And that young man, I'm not going to say his name, was a sick person. He was a sick person. And he attached himself to an ideology on the fringe of mental reasoning.
Right.
Which is what a lot of sick people do. And I saw the Vice clip that was shot in Charlottesville, and it was very telling, and it was an amazing piece of documentation. And it was very shameful to see these young white men being so open about, their ignorance. They were trying to be intimidating, I think, in some ways. But the guy who killed that young woman was mentally ill.
Right. He
was mentally ill. And he attached himself to fringe ideas to satisfy his murderous thirst, really.
Right.
So it's when somebody crazy wearing your team shirt does something insane, unfortunately everybody on that team gets called insane. But that's not constructive to the overall dialogue.
Right. Well, I mean, what the left wants to do is they want to pin the entire group of conservatives on the actions of a very few mentally ill people, and basically sort of negate the fact that they're dismissing the entire ideology in the first place. Now, a few months ago, Steve Scalise was shot in the leg, and he was in critical condition for a while because of some deranged Bernie Sanders supporter. And most of the conservatives that I know didn't go out saying, Bernie Sanders is inciting violence. And that's one of the things that you hear a lot. Donald Trump is inciting violence. Jeff Sessions is inciting violence. It's just a matter of time until the gays are taken away and the blacks are put back in chains. And even Joe Biden just a few years ago said, the conservatives, they want to put y'all back in chains. Absolutely ridiculous scare. I mean, they call us the scaremongers. But even when a conservative was shot in the leg by a deranged Bernie bro, most of us came out and said, okay, yes, the leftist philosophy does promote violence, but Bernie Sanders himself didn't promote violence, and he didn't himself call out for violence. To me, that's one of the distinguishing differences of the two different sides. Did you see that manifest while you were there at the protest?
Did I see? I didn't see a lot manifest. What I saw was several dozen young college students and very upset, mostly white young people, sharing a megaphone, calling for the removal of the statue, and sharing stories. This went on for about an hour and a half. And finally, the two or three guys from the secessionist party who were wearing their rebel flag shirts, one of them says something to the effect of, like, I'm a proud descendant of a Southern hero or something like that. I don't know, the kind of stuff you buy in a gift shop, just really just silly stuff. And, like,
yeah.
And, like, these guys were, filming it with their iPhones or whatever they had. And, after hearing, one side talk for a long time, I'm very centrist in my ways of being. I like to hear all sides, even if it's unpleasant. And I was kind of eager to hear what the secessionist party had to say. I mean, I really wanted to hear it. I mean, not that I would agree with it or anything. I just was curious. I heard one side talk for long enough, and, I was ready to hear the other side. And so one of the two or three guys that actually had the courage to kind of be in the crowd started to speak up. And I was very disappointed when that crowd just booed him and cursed him out and screamed at him and catcalled him. And he tried a couple times. I gotta say, he was trying to keep his composure. He reminds me of my military uncle who just won't lose his cool. He'll just keep on talking until he realizes there's just nothing he can say. And
right. So the white supremacists, the nasty, awful, terrible racists people got up there to speak some whatever they wanted to speak, and the Antifa folks wouldn't let them talk. The Antifa folks mostly being a bunch of white folks, basically, was what you're saying.
Yeah, it was disappointing. It was disappointing because I got to see what exactly is wrong with the way we treat each other now and why nothing works.
And we're going to talk just a little bit about that when we come back. We got a hard break coming up. Get me at Shaq General. We're talking with Mike Campina. We will be right back.
Kevin Jackson
on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.